Good evening. As many of you know, I'm the very proud principal of Peninsula Grammar School, and it gives me great pleasure to warmly welcome you to our school this evening. Together, we're about to embark on a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to connect live to astronaut Nick Hague aboard the International Space Station. We are honoured to be been chosen by NASA and ARISS to host tonight's event. I'd like to thank sincerely our Head of Science, Tracy Fletcher, for her passion and commitment to ensuring tonight was made possible for our school community and visitors to enjoy. We value science education at Peninsula Grammar and the power that knowledge and understanding of scientific concepts and investigation impacts on our daily lives. Many of our teachers are passionate and committed to providing innovative science experiences for our students and their families. We also lead the way in our STEM program, which is superbly integrated into our curriculum across all year levels of our school with the aim to inspire, discover, challenge, create and push the educational boundaries of our talented students. We are all enthralled by scientific discoveries at Peninsula Grammar, and we are all in awe of those who live their passion, particularly those whom explore space on behalf of all of us. We will learn much from astronaut Nick Hague this evening. I'm sure we'll be inspired by Nick's commitment to his craft and the unique experiences he lives daily while in space as an astronaut. And we will marvel at the technical skill involved in establishing a live radio link to the International Space Station. I'm looking forward to extending my love of learning this evening by witnessing this significant event unfold. I trust you will all enjoy tonight's adventure too. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce to our guest speaker, past student from the class of 2015, Nick Sajecki, and our current students, Marlo Travis, Declan Groves, Hugh Bunteen, and Zali McFarlane, who will share with us their love of science and space. Please make them very welcome.
Thank you. All right, what do we got here? So as a kid, I was always a little bummed out, right? Because we've discovered so many cool things over the years. We've sort of unraveled the secret of the atom, for better or worse. We've discovered all the corners of the world. And you know, as a kid, you're sort of like, man, I wish there was something I could discover. I'd really like something more for me to find. But the more science you do in your life and the further you go through your science career, the more you realize that this just isn't the case. I'm in a third year of science right now, and I couldn't tell you half about my degree. It's a very, very expansive field. The more you learn, the more there is to learn. Especially when you're talking about space, I think. It's one of those things that's always been magical to me, space. If you look at it, space as itself, it's just the absence of something. It's pure nothing. I think that's pretty cool, right? Because you're so used to just having stuff around everywhere. It's nice to think that there's just nothing somewhere. And the more you look at it, the closer you go, the more things start to not make sense. You know, things can happen that you can't explain, and you're like, well, that's a pretty nifty little thing. It starts to become pretty interesting. And it's nice to know that this magic is still out there, especially for all the kids coming up today, that there's a frontier that they can still discover. And now is a very exciting time to be getting into it, especially with old mates over at NASA going up to the moon. Again, that's very cool. I'm a huge sci-fi fan, so you know, whenever you look at like sci-fi movies or books or any of this, the staple is always like moon mining. There's always mining on the moon. They got the big things and they're mining water or whatever. And like now NASA's actually doing that, which I think is like unreal. It's sort of one of those things where it's like, oh, maybe I am like in the future. You're sort of like getting more evidence. Like, okay, I'm getting there. Especially with the climate too, which is something I want to touch on because it's becoming a very sort of dire system for us, especially my generation, the generation coming up now. It's not looking too great, which is why it's very important that we have people getting into science because it's such an important time for it. It's great that we have the power to say, we can save the world. This is at our fingertips, where I think no generation before us has ever had that. So it's very, very exciting. To touch on Space Camp, because I think I was one of the pioneers for that. I sort of got booted off to that in its first iteration. And it's great fun. I'm not sure quite how it's run now, because it's been through a few iterations since I was there, but it's an absolute blast. If If you're worried about it or thinking, oh, I don't have friends going or any of this or any of that, it's great. You meet friends for a lifetime, and it's just such a great opportunity. You learn so much, and it's just a stellar. Like getting out of the country, experiencing a whole other culture, it's great. Truly fantastic. So enough of me rambling. I'll hand you back over to some of the other probably more well-prepared speakers and end it there. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to hearing what the astronauts have to say as much as you are. Thank you.
So these past years have been very exciting in the world of spaceflight and exploration, setting many plans and missions in action. So NASA has recently confirmed that they'll be going back to the moon by 2024, using the technologies that have been developed over the past decade. On Space Camp, we got to experience how these missions would operate and see how the new space launch system would work in harmony with the new capsule Orion to take trained astronauts to the moon, Mars, and beyond.
But the real question is, what about us? Currently, there are 5 companies getting ready to make space travel commercial: SpaceX, Virgin Galactic, Blue Origin, Orion Span, and Boeing. These companies are planning to send the public, or those who can afford to pay the expensive 12.8 million Aussie dollars to space or to stay in a space hotel. It is quite a price, but you would be surprised to hear that the hotel hosted by Orion Span is booked out for the first few months of business, due to open in 2022. A great family holiday for a family of 6, which is the capacity of the hotel. But these businesses have not come without controversy and backlash. Astronauts like the very famous Neil Armstrong has explained his displeasure about the commercial space travel and how it takes away from the unique experience of space. But this has not stopped them. This has not stopped the companies from continuing to plan, build, and create new transport and experience for society.
This is not the only part of space travel that we have to look forward to. NASA's plans to send people to the moon again in 2024 are underway, and the moon pit stop for future Mars missions is in full swing. By first sending humans to place a small group of rovers on the surface of the moon, these rovers have small 3D printers inside of them that can convert the moon's surface into a strong building material. Then another manned mission is required to finish off the base with a blow-up internal design, just like a bouncy castle. This will pressurize the area and make it a livable space for humans. This space will also be used to hold supplies like food, fuel, and water, and will act like a petrol station for the Mars missions in the future.
These Mars missions are going to be the furthest away humans have ever been before. The mission will take between 150 and 300 days to travel there, depending on the weather, wind, and position, and will, on the way there, orbit the newly constructed moon base and collect food and give updates to the people who are set up on the moon. They will then journey to the Red Planet. This mission's purpose is not only to look at the surface of Mars, but to run tests on the livability, plant growth, and of course, to find the robot Opportunity and bring him back to life. The living quarters are still being designed, and NASA has looked at many different designs for the astronauts going on the mission. After this, we will send more people with different jobs and try to start a community on Mars. This is incredible and could be happening very soon. Within the next 30 years, we might be living on Mars.
But Mars isn't the only place that we're looking. In early 2017, the planet TRAPPIST-1 was discovered by the Spitzer Space Telescope. The solar system that is it in consists of 7 planets, 3 of which we believe are in the habitable zone. So what does this mean? Well, we could have aliens on our hands, or the discovery of a new home for humans. This is a very exciting time, and I believe that researching and investigating the moon, Mars, and other planets would reveal more secrets that could help solve our problems in this current world. And we might even find a future home. Nobody truly knows what is out there, and why wait? To quote NASA, we are going. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Zali McFarlane and this is Hugh Buntine. And in 2017, we had the opportunity to train at Space Camp in Huntsville, Alabama. Hugh and I thoroughly enjoyed our experience, and our highlight were the very exercises we completed to simulate the training astronauts undertake before they become space ready. We even completed 3 simulated missions. In these missions, we were all given individual roles like pilot, mission specialist, or in mission control. Our 2 missions were moon expeditions, and that went for an hour. Within that hour, we had to complete different tasks. This would be from completing an experiment to landing the shuttle on the moon.
So my job in these missions was to be in the mission control. So I pretty much had to look after all of the astronauts in space on the ISS. So they would call up and say, Hugh, we've got a big flashing red light and a big sign that says we're running out of oxygen. And I'd have to say, all right, I'd have to get out my big instruction book, look through and tell them exactly what to do, which is what I can imagine people at NASA would have to do as well, except I think their instruction book would be much bigger than the one I had. So.
We also went scuba diving to test the effects of anti-gravity that astronauts would experience while in space. We tossed heavy items freely in the water and played all different sports.
And when I first heard that we were doing scuba diving, I thought it would be just like swimming. But when I got in there, they sort of strap you with the right amount of weights, and it's in an 8-meter deep pool, and you get in there and you close your eyes, and you're literally floating. And I guess that was the closest thing that you can experience to weightlessness of what we're going to see today as you experience in space, which was really cool, what I thought at the time.
We also went in a ride that simulated the feeling of G-force, as if we were preparing ourselves for takeoff. This ride made us stick to the walls, and it was a really strange feeling. Our training led to our final mission, to land on Mars, and set up a colony like NASA plans to do in the future. Just as before, we were assigned roles. I was a pilot that was traveling to space.
I gained a new respect for the pilots when I realized how hard a job it was. I remember being in the spaceship and watching our shuttle just nosedive into the middle of the ocean and then proceed to explode, and we all died. So, so I cannot really understand how sort of high pressure it would be to be in charge of a floating vehicle through space.
To simulate the time delay in the communications that would occur if we were actually in space, the shuttle had to talk through the people situated on the International Space Station, who would then relay our message to mission control. So, example, if we had a problem, we had to go through 2 people to get our answer. During our mission, we had to deal with many different problems. One of the problems I had to face was being asked to push a button that didn't exist, but was essential to the safe journey of the shuttle. As Hugh said before, we crashed. I also had to complete the task in large spacesuits that would be suspended up to fix the problems up in space.
In this mission, I was on the International Space Station, and they gave us all sorts of problems that we had to overcome that were similar to problems that the astronauts would have to do in real life. I personally was a pyromaniac, so they gave me a whole lot of fire sort of pieces of paper, and I just went around lighting fires, and everybody had to put them out and sort of deal with my mental health. And then other people tripped and broke their wrist, and we had to get a medic to put a cast on them, and all sorts of problems like that that hopefully don't happen in the real world, but obviously do. And people need to be able to deal with that.
Other problems occurred, such as medical and mental health problems, such as the medical advisor, played by one of our teammates on Mars, was walking into the colony to find all the other students inside harmed or dead. It was truly challenging experience and gave us a small insight into what astronauts complete before the trip up into space. Even after 2 years, these are very fond memories of mine. Thank you for listening.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here tonight. My name is Robert Broomhead, and I'm part of a group of radio enthusiasts here tonight that are being able to bring you this contact with the ISS. We call ourselves radio amateurs. We experiment with two-way radio. We experiment with ham radio. Some of you might have heard of that. Anyway, my team over there and the camera people at the back are all working hard tonight to not only share this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity with you people here in the room, but also with people across the world, as far as the States and Europe and people like that who are tuning in to watch this contact. So we, as hobbyists, experiment with two-way radio and ham radio, and we have the privilege of being able to go into schools such as yours and give you people the opportunity to actually speak with the astronauts on the International Space Station. One of the things that NASA does as part of its publicity program, I guess a public awareness of program of what is going on in the International Space Station and the social benefits of it, is to actually make these school contacts possible, where students can actually speak directly to the astronauts on the ISS and ask questions. I've got a short video I'd like to show you on the big screen here, and this is from an astronaut, Tim Peake. He's on board the International Space Station, or was filmed on board the International Space Station, and it explains to you exactly how these two-way radio contacts work. Thanks for your time this evening. Thanks for allowing us to be here in your school, and enjoy the contact.
NA1SS, this is N2SJ, over. NA2SJ from NA1SS for scheduled contact.
Hi everyone, I'm Tim Peake and welcome aboard the International Space Station, where we're orbiting Earth 16 times every day. One of the most rewarding activities that some astronauts undertake on orbit is to talk to schools using the space station's ham radio. Now these are events that are planned by ARISS, which is a worldwide group of amateur radio volunteers who are dedicated to introducing young people and students to science, technology, engineering and mathematics. Now this is the equipment here in the Columbus laboratory, which consists of a handheld radio, a headset, and we also have a ham video unit. Now as the International Space Station orbits above your location, a radio link is established between the ISS and your school. Now, because we're traveling at nearly 18,000 miles per hour, which is an incredible 25 times the speed of sound, we usually get about 9 or 10 minutes of good radio contact before losing the signal. So about 5 minutes before the scheduled start time of the contact, I come into the Columbus laboratory and configure the radio so that I'm on the correct channel. And sometimes I'll set up the ham video too. Just before the predicted time, I'll begin to start calling the school using the standard amateur radio calling techniques. For example, if the call sign of your school was GB4 Fun, I would say Golf Bravo 4, Foxtrot Uniform November. This is Golf Bravo 1 Sierra Sierra, listening and standing by. Now at your school, the radio operator will be listening for my call, but may also transmit and try to call me as well. You'll probably have a much more powerful transmitter on the ground than we have up here on board, so I'm likely to hear you before you hear me. Then, once we can hear each other, then comes the best bit, which is actually talking to the students and answering the questions. Once I've answered all the questions, we use the remaining time to say goodbye to each other and end the connection. I'll then spend a few minutes configuring the radio back into a rebroadcast mode, and then I'll go back to my day job, which is of course doing science on board the International Space Station. ARISS is a brilliant opportunity for astronauts to talk to school pupils. It's really rewarding to hear how excited the students are when they're talking to somebody up here in space. And it's a true privilege to be able to inspire our next generation of scientists and engineers through amateur radio.
bow out, Shane. You do the test. I'll come back about 7 minutes before AON. And
no worries. Okay, what I'm doing here is we've got the International Space Station Telebridge link online now. So we've got the people from the US and our man in Adelaide, or Kingston, South Australia, Tony Hutchison, and he's providing the link up to the ISS. And so he's online now, so I'll get him to say hello, and what we might do is just grab one of the students here and just get, just come and sit beside me here and we'll do a quick audio test. But say hello there, Tony.
yeah, hello everyone to Peninsula Grammar School. And actually, Shane is doing the link tonight, BK4KHZ from up in Glendon. And I've got the easiest part. I'm just Master of Ceremonies, I suppose you'd say, and I'll introduce everyone shortly. But back to you, Robert.
No worries there, Tony. Well, I'll just grab the first student. Olivia, would you just like to talk into the microphone for me, just so that our people online can hear, and make sure that you've got good audio, so when the space station goes overhead, it'll hear you clearly. So just maybe ask your question.
This is Olivia. Although you're in quarantine before going into space, if someone was sick or injured in space, is there always a qualified first aid person when it happens? Over.
How did you get that, Tony?
Robert, that
I
was
received
really good.
Well, you take the Shane?
Sorry. Yeah, really good audio from this side, and but plenty of level to work with. Robert, thank you.
Fantastic, thank you.
How can you hear me? Am I coming through reasonably clear, or do you need me to back off or crank up the audio a little bit?
We've got good audio from you here at the console. The audience, you can hear. Yep.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Just very slightly, a little bit of feedback just on the edge there, Robert, so just watch it anyway.
Yeah, that's the PA system in the room, so I've just turned that one down a tiny bit, and I think we should be right now.
Right. Got about 6 minutes, Kathy, and I will ask you to start the recording in about 5 or 6 minutes.
Okay, I'll be ready.
Thank you.
Sounds very quiet in your venue there, Robert.
It is very quiet. Is there anything you'd like to tell the audience about ARISS and the contacts that you've had over the years? Over.
Thank you, Robert. Look, ARISS is an amazing organisation. I've been involved with ARISS now for about 15 years. Tony, who's our moderator today, has been involved around 20 years. And throughout that time, we've had quite a number of these scheduled link-ups that we've conducted over the years with great success and some extraordinary outcomes. So we're hoping today will be exactly the same. I know, Robert, you've also, yourself and Jack, have facilitated a number of these contacts, and it's always very pleasing to see the outcomes we get where we can deliver something very special like this to the students. Tony, is there anything further that you'd like to add to that?
Thanks, Shane. The only thing is, in the early days, we used to do conversations between the astronauts and their wives and families. They didn't have a IP service up there, and they used to rely on our Telebridge net throughout the world so they could speak to family. And we have been called in on several emergencies when they have lost communications, and when they had a problem one time with one of the cargo vessels locking onto the space station, and we were called in to help handle that. So we get called up, of course, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning to do schools over in the other side of the world, where it's in the US and Europe, and it is a very interesting and very rewarding hobby. We are a very dedicated group, and we all work well together. We share things, which makes it all interesting. Thanks, Robert.
Yeah, no worries there, Tony, and thanks for that. I'll just turn the audio down a little bit, just getting a bit of feedback on the PA, I think. Okay, if everyone can still hear me. So we've got a few minutes now before we run the scheduled checklist for the contact, which Tony will do for us. Look, I've been involved with ARISS over the last probably 15 or 20 years. One of the very first contacts that I was involved with was a hookup with the school at Glen Waverley Secondary College. And over the years we get the privilege of maybe once a year going into a school like yours and helping the school to have a once in a lifetime opportunity to talk to the astronauts. So it's a lot of fun. If anyone's kind of interested in what we do as a hobby, two-way radio, ham radio, or anything like that, please come and talk to us afterwards. We'd be, I'd love to share a bit of our passion with you and invite you to come and learn a bit more about what we do. Back to you, Tony.
Thanks, Robert. Yes, we've all been licensed amateur radio operators for many years now, and it's a very friendly hobby, always there to help someone who wants to join, and we've made lots of friends overseas. I've been privileged enough to have been invited by NASA back in 2001 to go over and spend a month over there looking at what they're doing and meeting quite a few of the astronauts, of which we're still pretty friendly, and keep in touch pretty well all the time. All right, we've got about a minute to go, and I think Kathy, if you can start the recording, that'd be fine.
Okay, I'll start them now. One moment.
Kathy is our operator in the US in North Carolina, and she is doing the recording. I do one here as well, but we always do a recording in case there's any controversy afterwards. We can play it back and we have a record of it.
And today's call is now being recorded.
Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'll start a little bit early for the official introduction. Hello, everyone. This is Tony Hutchison, VK5ZAI, your moderator for today. Through the help of amateur radio volunteers and the crew on the ISS, we soon hope to establish radio contact with the International Space Station as it flies more than 380 kilometres above the Earth over Australia. This is all accompanied with ARISS, amateur radio on the International Space Station. The ISS is currently flying over the islands to the north of Australia, whizzing along at nearly 28,000 kilometres per hour. Contact today will be performed using the ARISS Telebridge network, a worldwide network of amateur radio ground stations that enables students to contact the ISS. The audio of today's contact will also be available live around the world via amateur radio Echolink networks handled by Bob, VK4DA in Queensland, Australia. ARISS is a consortium of volunteers of 9 nations that develop and operate the amateur radio equipment on board the International Space Station. Those that support ARISS are the American Radio Relay League, the Worldwide AMSAT, Amateur Radio Satellite Corporations, the Canadian Space Agency, European Space Agency, the Japanese Space Agency, and Roscosmos, the Russian Space Agency, and of course NASA. The amateur radio ground station that will establish contact with the IS today is VK4KHZ, located in Glendon, Queensland, and operated by Shane Lind. We have about 5 minutes to go now. Our link up today will be with the students attending the Peninsula Grammar School in Victoria, Australia. And we've asked Principal Stuart Johnston to please tell us a little about the school and the students taking part today. Thanks, Stuart.
Thank you, Tony. At Peninsula Grammar School, we believe that...
Are you there,
Yeah.
Stuart?
Actually, sorry, I need him to... Yeah.
I'll go over there.
My apologies. The guys on the space station want to hear you. Yeah.
Thank you, Tony. At Peninsula Grammar School, we believe the pursuit of personal excellence is the right of each child in our school. Our school is the Mornington Peninsula's premier co-educational school, offering about 1,400 students from kindergarten to year 12 the chance to learn, grow and flourish. Our school is located 55 kilometres from Melbourne and is situated on 80 acres, providing a spacious, tranquil campus for our students overlooking Port Phillip Bay. Our school also offers boarding facilities for boys and girls, providing a home away from home for our Indigenous and international students. United by the common core values of integrity, personal excellence, stewardship, community spirit, co-educational learning and Christian faith, our teachers and students of Peninsula Grammar are active members of our community, embracing and engaging in 21st century learning. Each child at our school is known for who they are and the dreams they aspire to and achieve. We have an excellent record of academic achievement, a testament to our investment in the highest quality teaching, exceptional state-of-the-art facilities and learning spaces, and our innovative approaches to learning. It has just gone 9 p.m. here in Mount Eliza. We are in the heart of winter, with tonight's weather quite cold and overcast. We are delighted that 15 of our students will be connecting via radio link shortly to the International Space Station. These 15 students have been chosen from our school-wide competition. I congratulate our students as they are about to embark on an incredible experience. I know you're all extremely excited to ask a question each of astronaut Nick Hague very soon. I wish you all the very best and enjoy. Thank you very much, Tony.
Thank you, Stuart. And I did have the privilege of meeting some of your students here a few weeks ago when they attended the Generations in Jazz Festival in Mount Gambier. Now, to Shane in Glendon. Before the contact begins, please tell us about your station, where you are, and how you'll handle the conversation today. Thanks, Shane.
Thank you, Tony. Well, first things first, I'm located in Glendon, which is in Queensland, Australia, obviously. We're about 200 kilometres inland from the city of Mackay. The equipment that we'll be using today, as far as the amateur radio equipment goes, is we have two Yaesu FT847, the primary and the secondary, as the main transmitter, driving an amplifier by Linear Amp UK, which are fed into tracking antennas, which will track the International Space Station within about 1 degree of accuracy. Now, our pass today will be a fairly high pass. I expect that we'll have some fairly deep signal fade throughout that, of which I will manage from this side by switching to various antennas to try and combat that signal fade. Now, it's really important at the end of your question, students, if you can please say the word over, because that's my cue to switch between transmit and receive. And that's about it, Tony, so I'll pass it back to you.
Thanks, Shane. Now we have around 1 minute, a little bit over 1 minute before the space station comes over the horizon. Remember, what we are doing on ARISS is an experiment. So we can never tell the results positive or negative until the experiment is over. Students, don't forget to say over at the end of your question. In about 1 minute, the station should be coming over Glendon. Shane, it's all yours and good luck.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Robert, if you can have the first student ready. So what I'm about to do, my antennas have just tracked into position and we'll lock onto the space station in a few seconds once it comes up over the horizon. So I'm going to start calling. Don't be too concerned if you don't hear anything right from the start, but I'll keep...
Victor, Kilo 4, Kilo Hotel.
Really?
This is November Alpha 1, Sierra, Sierra. How copy?
Good morning, November Alpha 1, Sierra, Sierra. This is Victor Kilo 4, Kilo Hotel Zulu. Nick, I can hear you loud and clear, coming through quite well. Nick, we have the students from Peninsula Grammar in Melbourne, Australia, standing by for you with the first question. Please go ahead, Peninsula Grammar, with your first question.
This is Olivia. Although you're in quarantine before going to space, if someone was to get sick or injured in space, is there always a qualified first aid person when it happens? Over.
Yes, Olivia, absolutely. We all receive medical training. I'm actually fortunate enough to have a doctor as one of the astronauts up here. So we're prepared to take care of each other should we get sick or if someone gets hurt. And we also have a team of physicians on the ground that are only a radio call away if we need extra help. Over.
This is Dakota. How long will it take you to recover, and will you miss the space station when you come down? Over.
Dakota, we spend 45 days in rehabilitation, but some parts of our body won't return back to what they were before flight until almost 6 months after I land. So it takes a long time to recover. And will I miss the space station? I can tell you that I'm going to miss the view, absolutely. It's amazing to be able to look down on the Earth. Over.
This is Franklin. What is your favorite thing to do in space? Over.
Franklin, I mentioned I love to look out the window and look at the Earth and discover new places that I never knew existed on our planet. It's amazing to be able to see that. The other thing I love doing is floating. Everything here floats. So I do somersaults and flips and twists, and it's like I'm 12 years old again. And I get to play with my food. I practice eating my food with no hands, just trying to grab the spoon full of food out of the air with my mouth. Over.
This is Hamish. What was your first thought during liftoff when you traveled to the space station? Over.
Hamish, it was one of, I've been working my whole life to get to this moment. Lots of years of dedicated hard work and training and all the people that helped me along the way to get me prepared for that moment. And I just wanted to make sure that I did the best that I could and perform like I needed to in order to be successful and have a great launch. Over.
This is Chloe. What kind of science experiments are you doing? Over.
Yes, Chloe, we're doing all kinds of experiments. Some of our experiments are to try to test how things behave in microgravity when things float all around us. We try to look for new materials and new material properties. We look for how biology changes on orbit too. We grow plants and yeast and fungus, and we try to see how those things change. We look at their DNA and see how it changes because of its exposure to microgravity and radiation environment of low Earth orbit. We look at all those things and so many more. In fact, during my mission, we're going to do over 300 different experiments. Over.
This is Jasmine. Why did you choose to be an astronaut? Over.
Jasmine, I think I started dreaming of being an astronaut when I was your age. I'd look up at the night sky and I'd see all those stars out there and I'd see the Milky Way galaxy and I'd wonder what was out there. And I just had this urge inside of me to try to go and discover, explore, look for new things. And so that's when the spark happened. And then As I grew up professionally, I started to see that being an astronaut and the types of things that astronauts do were something that I really enjoyed doing. Over.
This is easy. How do you use the internet on board the space station off? Over.
Yeah, Stevie, we use the internet just like you do on the ground, but ours may be a little more complicated because we don't have a wire like you might have going to your building to give you the internet. Instead, we have a series of satellites that circle the globe, and our radio signal from the space station to the satellites, and then the satellites back down to the ground connects us to the internet. That makes our connection a little slow, but it's still good enough to be able to find out what's going on the Earth. Over.
This is Samuel. When you were first selected to go on the ISS in 2013, were you thinking about how much your research might affect the future on Earth, and did that help you cope with leaving your family behind, getting into a spacecraft with people you don't really know, and possibly risking your life? Over.
Samuel, that's a great question. It's a pretty deep question, right? So I'd say that I got involved because I really believe in what we're doing. And that's been something that I've done my whole life is I've tried to work on things that I really believe in. And I believe in the research that we're doing up here. I believe that it is going to have a big impact on those on the ground and our ability to go in deeper into space. It's going to help change humanity. So that does make it easier to cope with the separation from family. But it's never really easy to be away from family. And, you know, that's something that my career in the military has taught me through deployments and being away from the family. It makes it crystal clear what's important to you. Friends and family and those that you love. That's absolutely important. In terms of possibly risking my life with people I don't know, I've got to say, I know the people on the space station really well. We're friends, and we've been trained together for years prior to launching. So, yeah, I didn't launch with strangers. I launched with friends. Over.
This is Alicia. What training did you go through to become an astronaut? Over.
We actually have to train on so many things. So the things you can think of pretty easily, like how to do a spacewalk or work the robotic arm, or maybe how to fly a jet. We do those things, but we do more. How to fix the systems on the space station, whether it's a cooling system or an electrical system or any kind of ventilation system. We have to be able to take care of the space station and understand how that works. But then we also have to prepare to do the science experiments, and so we need to know a little bit about each type of science. So there's so many things we have to do. I already mentioned that we get medical training, so I know how to help provide some treatment in case somebody gets hurt. We also get dental training, just in case somebody gets a cavity and we need to help them out. So we learn lots of stuff. So if you enjoy learning things, an astronaut's a pretty good profession. Over.
This is Charlie. Have you ever had a major issue with any of the technology on board the space station? Over.
Charlotte, absolutely. We're up here testing things every day, and part of testing things is you don't know if it's going to work. And so we try, and sometimes we fail. But we're always learning, whether it's through failure or through successes, we're building our base of knowledge about how everything works up here. And the more we know, the better prepared we're going to be for the future. So yes, things fail all the time up here, but that's part of the plan. Over.
This is Will. What is currently being done to try to help your life in space become easier? Over.
Well, Will, there's two parts to that. Part of it's the psychological support. So being able to provide us connectivity so that we can talk with our friends and family and help minimize the impact from being away from them for such a long period of time. But part of it is evolving the space station itself. I just spent a better part of a week helping install a water storage system that's going to minimize the amount of time that we have to do it and let the ground help remotely control it. So it makes our life a little bit easier on board. Over.
2 minutes before loss of signal.
This is Jackson. How has your understanding of the universe changed now that you have seen it from space? Over.
Jackson, the universe is gigantic. I look down on the Earth and I see how big the Earth is. And then I look at how small each one of us are. And I look at the area of the Earth that we populate, and it's fairly small. What it's made me realize is that we're all connected, whether you're in Australia or you're in the United States. We may be far apart from each other, but we're all connected. We're all part of humanity, and we all have to work together to make the world a better place. Over.
This is Ava. What do you miss most about Earth? Over.
Ava, that's easy. Friends and family. You know, if I was going to get into more tangible tangible things of everyday life, maybe certain foods like pizza. Over.
This is Josh. Can you have baths or showers in space? Over.
Josh, you can, but we have to use a sponge. So it's like a sponge bath or a towel bath. We can't spray water on ourselves because it floats too and goes everywhere. It's a huge mess. Over.
This is Ollie. Did the Air Force help you with what you were doing in space now? Over.
Ollie, absolutely. The Air Force. I've been in the Air Force, and I still am in the Air Force. I've been in the Air Force for 21 plus years, and it has made me who I am today. It helped prepare me to be an astronaut. It gave me all of the skills, life skills and professional skills that I need. It taught me how to be someone of integrity and how to work hard as part of a team in order to be part of something larger than myself and accomplish something really big. It was an amazing opportunity.
Okay, everyone, we've about lost the signal from the space station. A big applause to Nick, please. NA1SS, this is Victor Kilo 4 Kilo Hotel Zulu. Thanks very much, Nick. We're now closing the link. 7 3s, and thank you.
Well, thanks, Shane. Ladies and gentlemen, we've just shared a moment in history. Amateur radio station BK4KHZ, operated by Shane Lynn, contacted astronaut Nick Hague, KG5TMV, aboard the International Space Station, who spoke with students at the Peninsula Grammar School in Victoria, Australia. Now, for the international volunteer team of ARISS, including amateur radio satellite corporations around the world, American Radio Relay League, Canadian Space Agency, European Space Agency, Japanese Space Agency, and NASA. This is Tony Hutchison, amateur radio operator VK5ZAI in Kingston, South Australia, sending my greetings to you all in the amateur radio terms, 7 3s, which means best wishes. Thanks very much, everyone, and yes, back to you, Robert.
All right, well, thank you very much to Tony and to Shane for helping with the link this evening. And now it's back to the students and staff here at the college, and they're going to present the students with some certificates of recognition of the contact made this evening. Over.
I would just like to thank especially Tracy, who put a lot of work into this. Although we haven't met with corresponded many times on the internet, which is great. And to everyone at the Peninsula Grammar School, and especially the students for being so well prepared and excellent voices. It was great, and also to Robert and Jack, our amateur radio team, for helping us all out. And of course to Shane, who's done his usual magnificent job of handling the telly bridge. Thanks very much, everyone, and I'll say good night. And Kathy, you can stop the recording now. Thank you.
Thank you. The recordings have been stopped.
Thanks again, Tony and Shane. I'll close the line from this end. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert, and good night all.
Good evening, everyone. I don't know how you're feeling, but I thought that was immensely exciting. I knew it would be exciting, but I'm feeling pretty excited right now. Just to think that he was actually in the space station, orbiting the Earth, talking to our students. I think one of the things I love to think about is that when Nick Hague woke up this morning, one of the things on his list of things to do was to speak to students from our school. I think that's amazing. I do hope that you've enjoyed this evening. It's certainly something that I feel very privileged to have been a part of. It's a real honour, not only just an exciting opportunity, but a real honour to speak to an astronaut like Nick Hague. It's a testament to NASA and astronauts like him that they are not only advancing science, technology and space exploration, but that they want to promote passion and interest in these areas by talking to young people in this way. It's my great pleasure to acknowledge the contribution of our 15 students in our event tonight. I'd like to thank them for submitting the questions and asking great questions. Their interest and enthusiasm has really been infectious, and it's the reason that we're here tonight. It's been a big week for many of them. The older students are in the middle of their exams. The younger ones have got 2 very late nights in a row. And for some of them, getting up here in front of the audience was a really brave step, and I congratulate them on the way that they conducted themselves tonight, and as you heard from Tony, great voices tonight as well. I'm going to ask Stuart Johnston to come up and hand out the certificates as I call their names. So we're going to start with Olivia. Olivia, if you'd like to come forward and get your certificate. Franklin, is Franklin still there? Hamish. Chloe. Jasmine. Evie. She doesn't have to go. Sam. Alicia. Charlotte. Will. Jackson. Ava. Josh. And Ollie. Thank you. It's been a very long evening, so I will try and keep this next part as short as possible. But as with events of this kind, there are always many people to thank for their support and assistance, without whom we actually couldn't have had tonight happen. More than a year ago, a past staff member of our school, Robbie Jin, came to me to ask if we could apply to host this event. It was his enthusiasm and motivation that led to us applying to NASA and to ARISS, and I'm so glad that he's able to be here tonight as part of our audience to enjoy this night. Thank you so much, Robbie. I'm so grateful to many of my colleagues for their support in this venture. Thank you to Stuart Johnston for always being willing to support all our initiatives and allowing us to explore new and exciting opportunities such as this one. To the marketing department, in particular, Emma Smith and Shay Warren, thank you so much for all your work in planning this event. I could not have done it without you. And thank you to the IT and AV staff, in particular Simon Moody, for making sure that all the technology worked tonight. I was a little bit nervous about that. I'd also like to acknowledge the tremendous amount of support and assistance that we received from the radio amateurs at ARISS. They do this because they love it. They love helping students to connect with astronauts in the hope that they can help to instill in them a love of science and technology. Thank you, Robert, and all of your team in helping us tonight. We very literally could not have done this without you. Thank you to all of the people in the audience for coming along on this very cold night and sharing this occasion with us, and we really do appreciate your support. I'd like to thank our students, past and present. Thank you, Nick, for coming back and talking to us about your love of science and space. Thank you to Declan, Marlon, Marlo, Jackson, and Zali for sharing your experiences. I didn't know about some of those, and they sounded very exciting. To the quartet that was playing the music outside as you arrived. I really appreciated them and their efforts to actually learn the Star Wars theme for tonight for us. I appreciate so much for all that you did in spite of your exams this week for coming along tonight. And lastly, to our students up on the stage and in the audience, I hope that this is a memory you will treasure in the future. It certainly is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that not many people get to experience. Thank you and good night.
I'd also like to thank you all for coming out tonight, but I really want to pay tribute to Tracy a little bit more. In everybody's education, it only takes one person or one teacher sometimes to light a flame that lasts forever. Tracy's dedication to the betterment of our students in science is unsurpassed. She loves her science and she does everything she can to build the best science faculty that we can treasure. Her tribute and her dedication to this tonight is outstanding, but her daily work is formidable. And I've never met a more passionate and dedicated science teacher in my long career. So I would like to just, if you would, join me one more time. I've got a small gift to show our appreciation for Tracy this evening. Please. Thank you very much, and going home by a much more conventional means of transport, but I hope you all arrive home very safely. Thank you.
Does he know he knows?
He knew the questions, yeah, because if we end up with a really bad signal,